Welcome back, everyone, to a shot of Business Central and a beer. My name is Michael Intravartolo, and as usual, I'm here with the very knowledgeable Mr. Ken Sebahar. How you doing, Ken?
Thank you, Michael. I'm doing great. March is upon us. Spring is around the corner, virtually here now.
Yeah.
I have to say I'm very happy that the worst of the winter is behind us and all of the, hopefully, knock on wood, the sickness and flu that's been going around.
It's pretty much plaguing everybody.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad. And also, I heard for us, 57 degrees on Sunday, which is... It's like shorts weather.
Yeah,
right?
Break out the shorts.
And a light beer. Today we got a good show for you, as usual. We're going to start out talking about a little bit of beer, and then we're going to go into the Business Central news. And then we're going to talk about our feature spotlight, which is the late payment prediction extension. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some steps you should know, or some things you should know about app purchasing and stuff like that for Business Central, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yes, sir.
Today, Ken brought in a wonderful beer. Well, could be a wonderful beer.
We shall see, right?
Yeah. It's called Wild Sour Series Syncopathic by Distill Brewery.
Right.
Am I saying that right?
Distill, yeah. Distill Brewery, Normal, Illinois. And they have 2 brew pubs, I understand.
They do.
Illinois.
One in Carbondale and one in Normal, Illinois.
So, Michael, this is a sour beer. Have you ever had a sour beer before?
I've never had a sour beer. I've learned not to judge a beer by the cover of the can, sort of like judge a book by its cover, because it's very, very scary.
So, a sour beer also might be referred to like as a Gose beer. And there's another German term as well for it. What makes it sour are the specific yeast that's put into it,
Really?
or other acid producing bacteria, or sometimes a genus of yeast is called Brett or Brettanomyces is the full term for it.
All right.
But it's these special additives that they put in it, as well as the process of how they ferment it. They call it like a warm fermentation process.
Really?
So it's kind of like a less stable fermentation process that gives it this kind of unique flavor.
Now, have you ever had a sour beer before?
I have.
And is it truly sour, or is it just...
Let's take a sip. So yes,
it's truly
it is
sour.
sour, right?
That's different.
It is. So a lot of different breweries they'll focus on sour beers.
Yeah.
Actually, sour beer is the oldest type of beer.
Really?
Right. Nearly all beer used to be somewhat sour to some degree, and then kind of the whole pasteurization and sterilization process, and guidelines were introduced, which kind of provided a more stable, less sour type of beer.
Yeah.
So now you kind of get that, right? You can taste that tartness.
Oh, without a doubt.
At the end of it.
And it's funny because this is the first time. So on the Distill Brewery's website, when it talks about the syncopathic beer, it says that it's a refreshingly tart and acidic sour ale with citrusy, fruity, and floral dry hops, yada, yada, yada. But I think that description nails it.
Right.
To me, anyway, where it's definitely tart with acidic and fruity. So I think it's the first time I actually agree with some sort of a description for a beer.
And that tartness or sourness sticks with you at the end.
Yes.
Like you're drinking it, and it kind of looks like a normal beer.
Yeah.
It smells kind of like a normal beer.
Yeah.
You can smell the sourness to it, but man, at the end it's kind of a dry, right?
Yeah.
It almost tastes like dry, like real crisp and dry at the end.
It poured well for me. Probably the best beer I've ever poured in my life.
That was I was pretty impressed.
Yeah,
with
usually
that.
it's 3/4 of the head instead of.
Yep. So I went through and I got some funny reviews. So I'll start the first. Well, let's start with the bad.
All right.
So it says this guy goes, this beer has a slightly hazy golden yellow color. The head is a half-inch in height and recedes quickly into sparse lacing. The aroma smells like mop bucket full of used water and lemon pine sol.
And he drank it after that smell?
I don't think he was a big fan.
No, I don't get that.
But
All right.
immediately around that was these three. A must-try for anyone that likes sour beers. Would be great for people who love their beer really sour. Excellent ghosts and a great all-around refreshing sour. I could drink this by the gallon.
Oh, I couldn't go that far.
I think you might like this one then. Stings the tongue immediately after sipping with a strong acidic sourness. Stronger than a lemon head, but not quite an atomic lemon warhead.
I've had lemon heads, and I'm going to say it's not as strong as a lemon head. I don't get the mop bucket reference either. I think that might be my all-time favorite with pine sol.
Right. And I think this one, actually sums up my opinion on this.
All right.
I'm completely inexperienced with sour beers, and I'm not sure if they're my thing. This beer is the opposite of a relaxing drink. I'm kind of scared every time I take a sip, but I kind of invite the roughness.
I agree. Now, when I drink this beer, I immediately think that it should be paired with something. So I'm not going to be able to sit there and just order this at a bar and drink it. I think it's got to be paired with something for me to balance out the acidicness or whatever, tartness.
Yep. So it was a 6-pack over at Benny's, $13.99. They also have it available as a 4-pack for $9.99.
Nice.
So a couple different options there.
I think we should point out, too, that on beeradvocate.com, it has a rating of 89, which is pretty high.
Pretty high, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of favorable reviews. I think it's a pretty well-balanced. It's got some flavor to it. It's not harsh in one direction or another.
No.
It's just sour. And you either
Love it or hate it, right? Yeah.
or you're not.
I agree. Well, we'll talk more about the beers as we keep moving forward, but the next section is going to be the shot of Business Central, and we've got some good news for everybody, so stay tuned. Back at it again with a shot of Business Central. We've got some good news for everybody today. I want to start out by letting everybody know that on February 24th, Microsoft announced the global rollout of the preview environments for the Business Central 2020 Release Wave 1. I believe it was not promised, but they said they were starting to do it on February 1st, if I got the dates right.
Yeah, that was the official announcement. Well, the official announcement was that for the Dynamics and Power Platform, some of the previews would be available beginning February 1st, right?
Yeah, and I know I tried, I think it was February 18th to create a new sandbox and whatnot. I was not able to do it. I know you tried again.
I tried again on February 24th, and I was able to successfully create my new sandbox, which is for version 16 under the hood. It's the version number for the 2020 Wave 1 rollout.
And you were able to play with some new features and stuff in there?
It was, yeah. And then I got the announcement from Microsoft that said that effective today that the preview is officially available. So I kind of got lucky.
Your timing is perfect.
On my timing there. Yeah, so I did create my sandbox, and I was able to log in and look at some of the application enhancements that they announced. So the first one was the auto insert feature of recurring sales and purchase lines. So there already existed or exist today recurring sales and purchase lines on customers and vendors. But what they've done is added a checkbox where you can tell it that you want those to automatically be inserted when you create a new document.
Okay.
So take, for example, a vendor, your rent vendor. So you pay office rent to a property management company, and maybe you want to allocate that rent payment out to 5 different departments, right? So what you would do is build your recurring purchase lines for those GL accounts and departments.
Yeah.
And then when you go to create your new purchase invoice, as soon as you pick the vendor, it pulls in those 5 lines.
Okay.
Right.
And you think this is highly beneficial in today's world with everything being recurring nowadays with subscriptions and whatnot?
This is a pretty typical thing that people will have a default GL account or set of rows that they want, lines that they want to use for vendors on the payable side. Also works on the sales side, and you can fill in quantities as well. And on the sales side, the system will then automatically, once you insert those recurring lines, the system auto applies the current pricing. Right, so you're not hard coding pricing into those lines because that could be problematic. You get outdated, right? So it dynamically assigns those. You also can have it set so instead of just auto inserting them, it asks you or prompts you with a notification that there are recurring PIP lines available, so that you can confirm if you want those inserted or not.
Real nice. So it's just an automatically update. Or apply.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
Real nice.
Other improvements include bank reconciliation improvements. So, from what I could see, they have kind of cleaned up the page just to make it look a little neater and allow you to view more records on the page at once. So, based on feedback from users.
Very beneficial.
There's also a new feature called print to attachment. And what that means is, so let's say, for example, you are on a sales order and you want to archive a copy of that document that prints. So when you go to print the sales order confirmation, you can either print it or send it to the customer, or you can print it to the attachments. And what that'll do is it prints it, generates a PDF, and then creates an attachment record on that sales order.
Nice.
So now you've got kind of a copy of what did that actual document look like at that point. And
it automatically does it? It
no, the user goes and they
have to
take the action to say, I want to print a copy of this document to my attachments.
But it automatically puts it in the attachments then?
Yes.
So the user,
Yep. You might also want to do this on the purchase side, right? To say, I want a copy attached of the PO that I sent to the vendor, right? Because maybe someone might change the PO after that, so you can create a copy.
Very nice.
And my last but not least is the ability to receive more items than ordered. So what this allows you to do is, for each vendor, you can define what's called an over receipt code. And so what this allows you to do is specify different rules for different vendors, because some vendors you may not want to allow over receipt, but others you do. And you can create an unlimited number of different over receipt codes that have different tolerances or percentages available on them. And then what happens is, when you create your purchase order, when you enter a quantity to receive, there's logic that will now run. If you enter a quantity that's higher than the quantity you ordered, it'll look at what your over receipt code is for that vendor, and it will alert you if you are over but within the tolerance, and it then fills in the over receipt quantity and over receipt code on that PO line.
Nice.
And then obviously if you're over that percentage, it tells you that you're over the maximum overage, right? So the only, everything worked fine. What I did notice is I was getting pretty crazy testing the same document, and I'm changing this quantity and I'm updating this field, I got to the point where, I had this over receipt quantity filled in, and then I changed my quantity on the PO line, and the numbers kind of got funky. So when I tried to change my quantity to receive it, and I had a partial already received, and the quantities got funky. So just be aware that there is this over receipt quantity and over receipt code that are visible on the PO line that get filled in by the system automatically. So what I did was I just cleared those out, and then I was kind of back to normal again. But it's a great feature. It's something that most of our customers need.
Yeah.
Right? Currently, they just have to update the quantity on the PO line, and then you lose the visibility to, well, what did I originally order versus how many did they send me?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So this allows you to
Nice.
kind of keep those separate.
Real nice.
Okay. And then there were some other some additions, shortcut fields, and some improvements on filling in rows of data and performance improvements as well within the modern client. But those are some of the application features that I was able to test and see in action. And overall, definitely look good.
Nice.
Yep, top to
Real
bottom.
nice. All right, we also got some licensing, I suppose, updates. Currently, the 40% transitioning discount pricing does not have an end date. I think the end date before was 2021, but as of right now, there's no end in sight for it.
Right. Yeah. So what we're talking about here is if you've purchased, let's say, Dynamics NAV in the past, or even Business Central, you purchased a license, and now you're ready, you want to migrate to Business Central Cloud. To honor your investment in your annual enhancement plan, Microsoft is saying, instead of you having to pay full price for these cloud subscription licenses, you get 40% off.
Right.
So instead of $100 per month per user for a premium user, maybe you're a manufacturing company, you will pay $60 per user per month once you transition. Yep.
Yeah.
And that is good. So what they're saying is that indefinitely, as long as you are current and active on the enhancement plan, at whatever point in the future you decide to migrate from the on-premise solution to the cloud, you're going to get that 40% discount.
Right. And I also think I heard that, let's say you're not thrilled with how the cloud is or whatnot, that you can go back to the enhancement plan if you wanted to. Have you heard that or no?
Correct. Well, what happens, I have not heard that, but I kind of. So once you are on Business Central Cloud subscription pricing, you have automatically what's called a dual use rights license. So what that means is that you also can run that solution, Business Central, on premise if you want.
Okay.
So you're still you're still running the cloud, right? You're still a cloud customer in terms of subscription, but you can take that solution and deploy it on premise.
With or without enhancement plan? What did you still
I believe
be paying
without.
cloud
You're
pricing?
just paying your monthly subscription on Business
I got to
Central.
check on that because I'm pretty sure I heard that if you weren't happy with it, you could actually go back to enhancement.
That
But
may be.
We'll see. We'll see. Also, we've noticed that in the Business Central licensing document that cloud storage is actually capped at 80 gigabytes per tenant. And there are some companies out there that might be wondering, well, what if we need more gigabytes? What happens? And somewhere along in the future, we've heard rumors about Microsoft offering more storage, more gigabytes at a price, at some sort of price point.
Yep.
When it'll be available, I do not know. Maybe you know.
I believe April 1st.
April 1st
is when this is going to be official. And it kind of follows the model of the other Dynamics products where you pay a monthly license subscription, and that entitles you to X amount of storage space.
Right.
And then what you do is you just pay an extra fee per month for additional storage beyond what you've used.
What you need.
Yep.
Makes sense. Makes complete sense.
And so what they're saying is 80 gigabytes is included with each Business Central deployment, and only if you go above that would you have to maybe pay an extra amount.
Yeah. Nice. Also, we've heard some things about what we're calling attachment. Let's call them attachment SKUs, I guess, to where if you have Business Central as your base product, you'll be able to add like Microsoft Sales or Microsoft Customer Service to Business Central for a discounted price. That might also be available in April.
Right.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens with that and what the pricing will be and whatnot. Also, device licenses for Business Central Cloud and for on-premise, I believe, are coming sometime. Not sure exactly when.
Yep. Yeah, so the device licenses are where you have a physical device that is connecting to Business Central, and there may be multiple users who operate that device. So think like maybe a point of sale workstation at a retail operation. Maybe it's a shop floor handheld device or a warehouse device that someone has, or a shipping station, for example. So those are examples of where there's a kind of a workstation that has Business Central, where maybe multiple people are coming up to it and using it.
Mm-hmm.
So the license is attached to the device, not necessarily maybe a specific named user.
Yeah. And I've already seen some questions online about some things like, will a device license, will you be able to create a purchase order with a device license and stuff like that? So some things remain to be seen.
Yeah, there are some details now there is a licensing guide, kind of related to this device license, out on Microsoft's website. There is an updated licensing guide for Business Central it's effective January 2020, so maybe not brand new, but relatively new, and it includes a section on the Business Central device licenses. It talks about it, and it provides us these scenarios of where it comes into play and what types of activities are intended for these licenses.
So is the cloud device license available? Do you know? I think I heard 2021 for the on-premise.
So Microsoft's Q3 2021.
Okay.
Which is actually Q3 2020.
Yeah. So
after July, maybe sometime between July and October, it should be available for on-premise, and for the cloud, I believe it's earlier than that.
Nice. And also, want to talk a little bit about this Magic Quadrant finding for Power BI that came out.
Yeah.
And just like last year, if I remember correctly, Microsoft is by far and away the leader in being a visionary and being able to execute that vision.
Yeah. So this is a shot of Business Central.
It is
not a shot of Power BI, but
we love our Power BI.
Power BI, right? It's embedded into Business Central. Many of our customers are using Power BI. It's just a good natural fit as a reporting and business intelligence solution. So, published in February of 2020 was a report by the Gartner Group. So the Gartner Group is a software consulting and market analyst who goes out and looks at all of these different technology solutions, and they compare them. And so they define, okay, who are the players in this market? And then they review the solutions, and how they rank them is based on like a matrix where your let's say vertical axis is the ability for that company or product to execute. So how well was it put together?
Right.
Does it work? Does it work well? Was it designed well? Right? And then the horizontal axis is the vision. So, right, how well is the company thinking strategically in terms of features that they're putting in there?
Yep.
And looking into the future to say, here's what things may be coming in the future.
Yeah.
And so what you end up with when you have a horizontal and a vertical axis, right? is a square, and then there are 4 quadrants. And so the top right quadrant would be those companies that have the ability to execute well and have a solid vision.
Mm-hmm.
That is the quadrant, or what they call the magic quadrant, that you want to be in. And currently, of approximately 20 or so business intelligence solutions that Gartner Group included in this report, there are only 4 of the 20 in what they call the leaders quadrant, or the magic quadrant. And of those 4, Microsoft is far and away the farthest to the top right corner, meaning the best execution with the best vision.
Right, and two out of those 4 are really in the lower bottom half of that magic quadrant, so they're above the 16 other companies, but they're really not close to Microsoft's vision and their ability to execute that vision.
Right. Yeah, and some of the reasons when they talk about the strengths of Microsoft's Power BI solution is the fact that it's priced at $10 per user per month, right? $9.99 actually. But let's call it $10 per month, right? Which has really helped the product gain market traction, and it's also included with certain versions of Office 365.
It is.
So if you have E5, for example, you have Power BI Pro included with there. So people are adopting it. It's also similar to other Office products, and people are familiar already with it. So it's getting picked up and used. It was just launched in 2013. So in the grand scheme of things, it's not been around forever.
No, in those first couple of years, it wasn't really talked about too much. What I think really helped Power BI is the free version of Power BI, because it's really feature rich, and the functionality is amazing, and because it's free, everybody picks it up and tries it, and that's kind of what builds their momentum, and then you figure, well, I'll try out the $10 Pro version, and you get even more features.
That is huge, because you can go create a Power BI subscription. You can download the Power BI desktop and upload or connect to any data set you want. Start building reports, creating dashboards, and make sure it's a good fit, and that it's something that you can use and feel comfortable with before moving forward. And according to Gartner Group, almost the vast majority of all people they surveyed, customers, would recommend Power BI without any qualifications as a BI solution. Right.
Pretty amazing.
And going forward, they're integrating a lot of automation and AI into the product. So over the next coming years, expect to see more automated analysis of the data, where it can look through the data and automate, right, finding of exceptions and calculations. There's already a thing where you can, if you have a data set, let's say, that focuses on sales, you can actually go in and type on the top. You could say, which customer did we sell the most to in 2019? And it will recognize that question and present the results to you based on the data in your data set.
Pretty amazing.
Yep.
All right, so little shameless plug here. If you're on LinkedIn and you love Power BI, check out our Power BI by Solution Systems group. We have over 20,000 members strong, where we share tips and tricks every single day. So next up, we are going to be talking about the Business Central feature, which is the late payment prediction extension. And I liked it, thought it was easy to use. So we'll see what Ken has to say.
All right. Welcome to our feature spotlight segment. Today we're going to be talking about the late payment predictor feature inside of Business Central. And so what this is, if you log into Business Central and you are using the Business Manager Role Center, you'll see that there's an activity, and on it it says, there's a little activity tile that says sales invoices predicted overdue. And you're like, well, what is that? What's that doing? And I've got a couple sitting on here. And what this is Microsoft incorporating artificial intelligence into your customer receivables data to look at all of your customers' payment history and predict with a degree of confidence how likely is that payment going to be paid late. Yeah. So is there a high degree of confidence that something's going to, is it going to be paid late? Is it predicted to be paid late, yes or no? And then if so, what is the degree of confidence that it's going to be paid late?
So if you're a notorious company who pays your payments late, you're not going to like this feature.
Right. And I think, if we were to go out there and poll our customers, I think everyone kind of knows which customers pay late, right? Maybe they look at their average days to pay or whatever statistic they look at. But this is a real formal way that the system's looking. It's kind of, it removes all bias, right? It's simply looking at the data. And it's then giving the user these results saying, hey, these are the invoices that are predicted to be paid late. So if today we post 100 invoices and, tomorrow morning I come in, I want to see, hey, what invoices are predicted to be paid late? I can sort it by amount and then focus on maybe there's 2 or 3 invoices on there that are really big dollar amounts.
Right.
I can proactively start that collection process right away and bring down those days to pay on those invoices, increasing my cash flow, right? All those benefits that go along with that.
So it allows the collector to be a little bit more proactive and just maybe send out earlier alerts and whatnot, or earlier emails or whatever it is you do to make sure that that person pays on time.
Absolutely. Nice. And so how you, if you're running Business Central Cloud, this feature is included. It is not enabled by default. If you're running Business Central on-premise, you can use this feature, although you have to set up and use your own Azure subscription.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and even with the Business Central Cloud environment, there is a page within Business Central you can go into. It's called Late Payment Prediction Setup. And this is where you go in there and you turn it on. So there's an enable predictions box where you turn it on, and then you can select your model. There's a standard model that Microsoft provides, or there's my model, which
you create your own.
You create your own model, I imagine.
Yeah.
Right? It's a little above my pay grade.
From what I've read, it's relatively easy to do, and maybe not creating the model, but implementing your model is easy. Right? You got to be a data scientist to create your own analysis, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Yeah, but to go ahead and pick and set up and define your point to your own, that is easy. So once you do that, you then can update your payment predictions from here. So there is a button that you can click and you can say, okay, update my payment predictions. And there's a field that says the date of the last compute. So it shows you when was the last time that this payment prediction model was run. What you can also do is schedule the payment predictions. So I have my environment turned on. I scheduled it to run every night at 2 a.m.
Very nice.
So I come in every day. I know that my payment predictions have been updated to include my latest data.
Real nice.
Okay.
So how much information is needed for the late payment predictor to work? Do you have any idea?
I don't know exactly, but what I will tell you is that in my demonstration environment that I use, I've had this, it's a full subscription for Business Central that I use, and I've got data in there. It's mostly the demo data that comes with Business Central with the Cronus company, but I've also posted some of my own invoices over time. What I can tell you is that initially, if you just go into a demo environment, it may tell you that you don't have enough data to run the model. In my world, I do have enough data, But there's a field on the setup page called model quality. And it's kind of like a factor where 0 would be terrible and 1 would be like 100%.
Mhm.
My model quality is 0.56,
Okay.
which is pretty low. And what that means is that it doesn't have a high degree of confidence. I don't have enough good data for it to really create a good model. But what will happen is as you create more history, more customer ledger entries and payment history, that model quality improves over time. And it then kind of learns, right? It's artificial intelligence. It's machine learning.
Machine learning, yeah.
It's learning and it's adapting, and that model quality will increase over time. And what you can also do is set a model quality threshold to say, look, if you can't get to at least this level of threshold of confidence, 80% confident, 75% confident, then don't even,
Show it.
try to
Right.
give me a late payment prediction. So you do have that ability to set that up as well.
So when I went through and used it, I loved it. The features are great. So I tried it in a demo environment and in the Cronus environment. I noticed in the demo environment, if there's no information like on the customer ledger entry, the fields for it are just completely blank.
Yep.
Which makes sense. The only thing I wish it had, so when I was using it in a sales document, you can show the actual percentage before if you click it or whatever, and it gives you a reading of low, medium, or high. I actually want to see the percentage. So low is below 80% according to this, medium is between 80 and 90, and high is 90 and above. To me, there's a big difference between, say, 81, 89 in my head anyway, of who's going to pay and who's not.
And
gonna pay.
that is the level of confidence that
Right,
the
the level
model
of
has
confidence,
in confirming if that's going to be paid late, right?
Yeah.
So low would mean, okay, we don't really have a lot of history here. We're not really confident in our prediction here.
Oh,
High,
is it the level of confidence, or is it the
Yeah.
level of confidence that person is, that
it's the
customer's
level
not
of
paying?
confidence in its prediction.
Right. Okay.
So if it says it's a high degree of confidence, and it says it's going to be paid
I
late,
see what you're saying.
that means it's a high degree of confidence that it's going to be paid late. However, if your confidence is low and it says it's going to be paid late, what that tells me is that, okay, this based on the model, the system thinks it's going to be paid late, but it doesn't have a really high level of confidence in that.
Okay.
Maybe because I don't have enough history yet for it to make that decision.
Okay.
But again, I think as you implement this and use it every day and
Confidence will
develop
increase.
that customer history, that confidence for those existing customers that you do business with a lot,
Will
that
increase.
will go from low up to medium to high,
Okay.
right? As it gains more knowledge, so to speak. So
It's definitely something everybody should be using.
it's definitely something everyone should be using. It's pretty simple to turn on and get deployed.
Any idea why it's an actual app in App Source? Since it's already basically included with
Right.
Business Central?
Yeah, I don't know.
I
I
didn't
think
know
why they created it as an app versus not just including it in the core solution.
Yeah, because I don't think I didn't download the app.
I'm not sure. I don't
It's
know.
there,
I
right?
mean, there are probably a dozen or more now apps that Microsoft has developed, and they include by default in Business Central,
Yeah.
right? So I think all of these features where there's like an integration, they develop. In this case, it's an integration with Azure Machine Learning,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think they developed these as kind of standalone apps so they can be managed or
Easier.
maybe turned off. We have had cases where a customer of ours was having an issue, and what we found was that uninstalling a couple of the Microsoft apps that were in there by default but weren't being used were causing it. So we uninstalled all those apps, and that resolved it. So that's one example of a
Could
benefit
be, yeah.
of having it as an app.
But all in all, wonderful I guess, extension.
Feature.
Right? Feature, yeah.
Standard feature.
There you go,
It's
yeah.
there. You just have to turn it on.
Yeah, very nice. All right, next up we got top 10 things you need to know about Business Central apps. So stick around. These are going to be interesting. Back for our featured app segment, and today we're going to be talking about the top 10 things you need to know about Business Central apps. But before Ken gets into that, I want to remind everybody of my wonderful, perfect segment from last month, talking about
Wonderful and perfect?
wonderful and perfect. Yep, it's talking about the 5 steps you need to take before deciding any Business Central app. So step 1 was talk with your Microsoft partner. Come on, don't laugh. That's perfect. I mean, you've got to. Step 2, go to Microsoft App Source, explore all the different apps out there. Step 3, view documents, pictures, and whatnot about the app on App Source. Step 4 was to Google the app and see if there's any videos or a specific website dedicated just for that app. And step 5 was to research the app provider, otherwise known as the ISV, see how long they've been in business, see what others are saying about that organization or about that app. Do they offer other apps? What does their website look like? Is it updated? And those types of things. Now that we've covered the most perfect 5 steps to purchasing a Business Central app, let's get to the 10 phenomenal things to know about a Business Central app.
Yeah, and so it is kind of difficult to do better than a perfect list of things to do before purchasing an app. But that's exactly what I'm going to try to do.
All in the eyes of the beholder.
So what this is, we're gonna do another top list here for apps. Again, this is just top 10 things to know about Business Central apps. So, that list very informative, and these are steps that you need to take to vet those, right? And make sure it's a good fit for your business and you understand how everything works and pricing and everything. But this, we're going to kind of take a step back because we get a lot of questions from people on extensions and apps and what's the difference? How does this work?
Right.
So this is just kind of more of like a 101 list that we can share. So we'll go through. So it is a top 10 list. So number 1, the terms app and extension are sometimes used interchangeably by people. And this can be confusing.
A lot confusing.
Right. Effectively, they are the same thing. Except, let's get into some details. So, number 2, what is an app? An app is a complete solution for Business Central that has been designed for a specific purpose and provides functionality above and beyond what Microsoft has delivered within Business Central. Each app is submitted by a developer to Microsoft, approved by Microsoft, and then becomes visible on Microsoft App Source. And people can then potentially download it or whatever. So it's a formal, registered, accepted solution.
So, if I may interject, right now, obviously, the app and extension is completely being used interchangeably. But I don't know if you remember, in the beginning, when Dynamics 365 Business Central and all those were launched, Microsoft was trying to make it a point in the beginning that Business Central sales and whatnot were the actual app, and then the extensions were the things created by the ISVs. But once they launched App Source, then you can't put extensions on App Source and not have confusion. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yeah, and then to kind of put this into perspective, Business Central itself is now one huge app.
Right. Exactly.
And then you can take these other apps and plug them in, so to speak, right?
I was never a fan of the term extension, just because I think app had the more brand awareness or whatnot.
Yeah. So what is an extension then? So an extension is a more general term that describes the structure or method used for building these custom solutions within Business Central. right? So the old model was you develop solutions by modifying and creating objects. And in the new Business Central environment, now you create extensions.
So would you say, yeah,
Right.
exactly. So would you say an add-on is virtually an extension nowadays?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So and so where it gets confusing is because an app is an extension, right?
Yep.
But extensions can also be developed and deployed within an individual Business Central tenant or environment without going through AppSource and Microsoft for approval and all that.
Yeah.
So it's how we deliver customizations or custom solutions for our customers. When they go, you know what, I like that it always picks the lowest and the best price for my customer, and that's how the pricing logic works. But I want it to, if there's a custom price that exists, always use the custom price,
Yeah.
right? So we would develop an extension that does that. Now, are we going to go through the effort and publish that on Microsoft and AppSource and make it available for anyone to use? No. So we're going to call that an extension within our customer's Business Central environment. Okay. So that's kind of just hopefully that helps clarify. But effectively, an app is an extension.
Yep.
It's just generally kind of referred to more as a formally vetted and approved
Yeah.
extension.
And I
That's-
think most people refer to it as apps nowadays, no matter what it is.
Right.
But,
Number 3, the amount of functionality that is included within an app can vary widely. So as an example, one app available on AppSource may be a single report or document, a very small, simple app.
yeah.
While another app that's registered out on AppSource might provide all of the functionality required for a vertical solution, such as a metal manufacturer, for example. So, accordingly, there are significant differences in your company's dependence on that app, right? Obviously, if it's just one report or one document, you could uninstall that app if you don't like it, and you're done.
Right.
No big deal. However, if you're a metal manufacturer and you've installed this metal manufacturer vertical solution app, you probably are going to be locked in to using that because it provides such extensive functionality. Right, so it's just something to consider in terms of how, what that impact of that app is on your environment.
Right, the complexity of it, yeah.
Yep. Number 4, we think of apps as belonging to kind of one of 3 categories. And this is something that we internally kind of came up with. I'm sure there are other ways, or you could add one or think of it differently. But this kind of works for us. So the first type of app is a native app. And what we mean by native app is that the app is completely built within the Business Central environment, meaning all of the data and functionality is contained in that Business Central database. Okay. The second type is an integration app. This is an app that exists simply to integrate Business Central with an external solution where the majority of the actual functionality or capabilities are accessed outside of Business Central. And examples of these types of apps might include payroll software integrations, e-commerce integrations, or expense reporting solutions. So these are companies that have their own
Portal.
user interface and database and solution, and they have simply created an app explicitly just for passing data back and forth between there, right? And then the third type of solution, it would be a hybrid, which is a combination of a native app and an integration app. In these cases, a user may operate Business Central via new functionality provided by the app, but the app also utilizes an external application. Examples of these might be credit card solutions, sales tax or shipping solutions, where there is functionality that's added inside Business Central for the users, but they are reliant on an external application for, calculating tax or charging a credit card or calculating shipping charges, right? So that's kind of a hybrid app. So that's how we kind of categorize them.
It makes complete sense, though, right? I mean,
Right. Yep. Number 5. Some apps provide free trials, and most of these will limit your use of the app to a period of time, such as 30 days. However, some apps do not provide free trials and instead require you to contact the app provider to obtain additional information. Generally, it's the larger, more complex apps that require you to contact the app developer for additional information.
probably just because of the setup and everything or whatnot, you think?
Right. Yeah, it could be they want to make sure that they don't maybe because of the scale and size of the app.
Yeah.
They don't want someone to deploy that solution into their Business Central environment only to find out that they completely misunderstood what it was for. And now you uninstall it, but it's
Made some changes and whatnot. Yeah.
Right. So they want to make sure that it's a good fit for those requirements. Okay. Number 6, in terms of payments, most apps ultimately require you to pay the app developer to use the app, and most apps are priced using a subscription pricing model. However, there is no one way that all apps are priced. Some apps will price it per system per month, right? So or per environment per month. Some are per user per month. Some are a combination of these. Some have price tiers depending on how many users you have. So it's really up to the app developer to define how they want to do pricing. Number 7, some app developers require that you arrange your license and your payment directly through them, while other app developers will work through your existing Business Central partner to arrange for licensing and payment. Microsoft does not enforce a specific model, so they allow each app developer to define their own programs of how they distribute their software and how it gets implemented. What I can say though is that in every case I've seen, the price that the end user pays is the same, right? Regardless of if you go direct or you go through your partner.
I'm almost hoping that eventually Microsoft sort of takes it over and the billing actually goes through Microsoft from the ISV and then down to the partner or the user or whatnot. I think it would make it a little bit more simpler.
And even provide some structure around the, what options, maybe a few allowable licensing options per user, like how you charge for it. Right. Do you go per user? Is it just per environment? Right.
Yeah.
So create just a couple. You pick from one of these ways that you want to price it, right? And then Microsoft collects the money. Much simpler.
Right. Because in theory, if you're running 20 different paid apps, you're getting 20 different bills per month, right? And
you could.
Yeah, and it could get confusing then, and it requires a lot more time to pay them and everything.
Time to pay, time to analyze what's your total investment per month.
Right. Yeah. Right. So it'd be a lot easier with one bill just from Microsoft.
Absolutely. Yep. So, okay, number 8. The source code of an app cannot be directly modified. So, however, extensions can be created that change the functionality of the app the same way that extensions can be created that change the functionality of the Business Central. However, in order to do that, in order to be able to modify what an app does, the app developer has to consider that you might want to change it.
Yeah.
So they have to code it in a way that allows other developers to further extend their app.
Is this commonplace? I mean, do a lot of these app developers build this into their app, knowing that people want to extend the functionality of it?
The good ones do.
The good ones do?
Right?
Okay.
So a good, well thought out app says, that app developer says, look, we're going to change how pricing is done here. And we're going to add these options for handling pricing and discounting or whatever. But while they're developing it, they need to consider, they should be considering, that someone else might want to use that app and maybe modify or insert additional logic at a certain point. So what they have to do is they actually have to write, build their code with events that allow other events to get inserted between them. Right? And if they don't do that, then there's no way that another developer can further extend that functionality.
Right. So you would have to work or not work if they don't do it.
And then, so you go, well, okay, I've implemented this app and now we want to modify it, but we find that we can't. What's our recourse? What do we do? Well, what you should do is contact the developer of that app, of the original app that you want to kind of modify. And you tell them, you say, hey, we're running your app. We want to modify it. Yeah. At this point, we want to add this custom logic to it that does something different.
Right.
Or does something in addition to what you do. And they then can create a new version of their app that has that event subscription in there.
Nice. So
that people can now insert their code. So it's not the end of the world. If there is no way to modify it, as long as the app developer is open to
allowing you to
improving their solution and allowing that, right? Yeah. Now you might have to wait a month,
of course, yeah,
for that next version to come out, but that is possible. Number 9, if you no longer want to use an app, you can uninstall the app from the extension management page in Business Central. All functionality associated with the app will be removed from your Business Central environment. However, while there's no noticeable impact to the user, the app-related data continues to reside in that Business Central environment. It sits there in a disconnected state. So that it's no longer being referenced or utilized by Business Central. But just something just to be aware of. Under the hood, right, there will be remnants of that app. That should have zero impact.
No way to completely delete it.
Right. No, it's there. And how I can tell you that as a fact is because if you have an app, you start using it, you insert some data into some of the tables or set some fields up, whatever, uninstall it. If you then reinstall that app, your data is still there. Right. So I think there are different ways that app developers can handle that, but by default, it sits there, but it's just all disconnected, so there's zero impact on you.
It's good.
And number 10.
Number 10.
Last but not least, when a new version of Business Central is released by Microsoft, it's common that an app developer will need to provide you with an updated version of their app so that it works with that newest version of Business Central. Right? Sometimes,
Otherwise, error messages happen and whatnot. Yeah.
Correct. What might happen is you schedule your Business Central environment to be upgraded to that newest release, and when that happens, you might get an error. So it might encounter the error, cancels the update of your environment, and then there are notifications that go out that'll provide details of why that failed. And it's common that it's related to one of these apps, you need to go get a new version. Maybe because Microsoft implemented some new variables or changed how certain pieces of the code work, so that the app developers have to go tweak their code, right, to fit with the new rules of Business Central. So that is common. It's par for the course, so to speak. And it also might be that that app developer needs additional time, right? So
Okay.
they may be 30 days behind that release schedule of Microsoft. So Microsoft is coming out with 2020 Wave 1 on April 1st. It's possible there are apps that you may be using that do not have a new compatible version available on April 1st. So just don't panic,
Yeah.
but something to consider. So, and that's why going back to your list of when you're going to pick an app, vet that app developer.
Right.
Who are they? What other apps do they have out there? Where are they located? What is their support plan?
Yeah.
Right? Because it is important that you understand who that app developer is, and are you going to be able to get compatible versions as you go forward in the long term?
Right. If they've only been around for 2 weeks,
Yeah. You
Make your
can't
best
get anyone
judgment,
on
I
the
guess,
phone. You can't contact anyone. You
Right.
can't get any questions answered about anything. Right? You
then
might-
it's time to panic.
might not increase your level of confidence that in 2 years they're going to continue to have new versions available for you.
So true. Well, there you have it. The top 10 things you need to know about Business Central apps. I might be a little biased, but I don't know. Maybe mine was just a little bit better. I don't know. You might think the same about yours.
I think yours was perfect. It's top 5 things to do when you're purchasing an app. But clearly, I had top 10 things to know
You did.
about Business Central apps.
You
So
did.
I would say my list was double perfect.
There you go. So before we get into the closing segment or whatnot, we've got to rate the beer. My friend, what would you give this beer a rating of?
Well, I would give this Destil Brewery Wild Sour Syncopathic Dry Hopped Sour Ale. I would give it an 80.
Oh,
And I'm giving it an 80, admitting that I'm not a sour beer fanatic
yeah.
or expert, but I have had other sour beers. And I've had other sour beers where I took a sip of it and
I
I
got
poured
you.
the rest out.
So this is one of the better sour beers
It was
for you.
so undrinkable. This has a lemon and lime flavor to it, and you can
Yeah.
taste the hops kind of in there. So it actually has some flavor to it.
Mhm.
It's just sour.
It is.
So
He's good.
I'm trying to remove that from the equation because not just saying do I like sour beer or not like sour beer.
Yeah.
Um,
No, it makes sense. For me, so my standard is if it's below 50, I cannot drink an entire glass. I can drink an entire glass of this. I think as it warms, though, to me, it's getting more and more sour. So when we first started out having it, I was like, it's not too bad. I'm going to have 2 of them or whatnot. And even halfway through, I was going to have another one. But now as I get down to the bottom,
You
I
getting
do not
heartburn?
think... No heartburn. I'm getting pucker mouth. What are you going to call it?
Right.
But it's... So it's getting to the point where I think I'm going to pass on the second one. I'm going to give it a rating of 64. 64 is my rating. I have not had other sour beers, so I can't compare it to other ones. Now I might, tomorrow I'll have a sour beer and it might be the worst thing ever, and I'll feel bad for giving it a 64. It might be the best sour beer I've ever had in my life. But as of this moment, I'm going to go to 64.
Hey, we're here to learn together, Michael.
Yeah, that's the point. I mean, it can't all be sunshine and roses. I mean, you got to try different beers. It's what's great.
Right. I think we've been kind of silently ignoring the sour beer category
Yeah.
for the entire podcast up until this month, and I said enough is enough.
Yeah.
We need to go there.
Yeah, your text message even said we cannot ignore it anymore. So thanks everybody for tuning in. But before we get out of here, I got a couple quick notes I want to talk about. Last month's podcast, where Ken basically went over and discussed each of the Business Central 2020 Wave 1 features, was our most popular podcast to date. Even with one more week left of reporting, it is by far and away the most popular podcast that we've done. So thank you to the listeners, right? We'll keep bringing Business Central news as we get it and giving it to them. Also, we've been polling individuals since the beginning of February as to what their favorite upcoming new feature is for Business Central. And to celebrate March Madness, we've created a printable Business Central bracket.
Oh, yes.
So each week, starting March 9th, we're going to be releasing that week's Business Central feature winner, which is based completely on the polling of the individuals. So go to our blog at www.solstice.com/blog for more details and to download your printable sheet. And I got to say, we'll put this out on social media, and it's gaining quite the traction. A lot of shares, and a lot of Business Central people are actually liking it.
Business Central March Madness.
Business Central March Madness.
Now we're really doing something.
Yeah, now we're really doing something. Exactly. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it, and have a great March.
Talk to you next month.
See ya.